I go past there all the time. I don't see many trucks. But all right. Well, you have the answer.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Evening, Dawn Roy-Connis, 1911 Gary Road. On your executive session agenda, and I know you can't speak a lot about it, but I wonder if you could share something about the topic under called shared services for police department. Is there anything publicly you can talk to us about?
No.
No? Okay. Got my answer.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Open space somewhere?
Nico Zitis 202 Willow Way. Elaine, I just wanted to ask, based on what you mentioned about the Morris Canal, the meeting next Tuesday, are they coming to our meeting?
They're coming here to this facility.
So are they going to be at the same time where the
Yes,
environmental
at the
commission?
environmental meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
I sent an email to Paul and to Jim Adams so that they could disseminate that to you guys.
Okay, I'll have
Okay.
to see you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. Chuck Purcell, 227 Arbor Drive. I just have a question about the rumple strips. Has anybody tried running like a school bus or a heavy truck, or dare I say a fire truck or an ambulance over it and see what the effects would be?
No.
Yeah, I think maybe you should. I mean, it's a little scary for a bunch of kids.
Police car, that was it.
Yeah, police car. Crown Vic rides a whole lot smoother than a school bus or an ambulance or a fire truck. But so before we do something like that, I think you should consider the effects on other vehicles besides a police car. And the fact that that police car may have to get out of town in a hurry, you know, is it going to slow it down? Just a thought. That's it. Oh, go ahead.
Let me explain to you what these are.
I know I've hit them in Flemington.
Okay, all right, just so, we're not talking about a speed bump, we're not talking about an elevated mound of bituminous pavement. We're talking about, in essence, thermoplastic traffic stripes, which are mounted on top of each other and then laid in tandem.
Okay.
And so clearly there's I mean, you're going to feel it.
Right.
And you're going to hear that noise from going over them. And I can tell you, Chuck, how it would affect an ambulance or a fire truck. Yeah, you know that's not my field of expertise, of course. But just so you know, these are fairly mundane. This is more of an audible warning than a physical speed bump, like, oh my God, I got to slow down, I'm going to lose my suspension, kind of thing.
That's what I'm asking. Is
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Do you want to see the details?
Is it like 78 where you hit like the white and the white show?
Yeah, well, the same in effect,
Yeah,
yes.
it's got that
Cemetery
vibration.
It's a different,
On Cemetery Curve?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a different,
Same concept.
it's a different application and different materials, but the sound and the,
Like the pull back a little bit.
yeah, exactly.
I'm just wondering if it's going to bounce it hard, or, you know what I'm saying? It's just a smooth ride over, it makes a lot of noise, who cares?
The residents are living in the house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, outside of that. Okay, you answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
May Cirillo, 102 Parker Road. I just want to thank you all for your involvement in the asphalt plant. I think I put it out in an email, not just from my perspective and the perspective of my friends, but even people from Lopat that I know came up to me during the meetings, and we're very thankful for our involvement for what Mr. Drill did. So thank you for that. The bigger concern right now, as you mentioned, Joe, is the injunction or whether or not it should be filed. The people are concerned that this was pushed through awfully quickly and that the plant is going to start to be built awfully quickly, and perhaps that represents some kind of an agenda on the part of the company. I know you said we weren't going to seek an injunction, and I was wondering if you can elaborate as to why.
Because it has no legal relevance to our argument and our cause of action.
So this would it almost represent like a new legal?
No, it represents, and I mean, I'm trying and answer, it really would not be an appropriate expenditure of township tax dollars for the legal arguments that we took. That type of relief would be more appropriately related to the other applications, which are going to be filed soon if they haven't been filed already.
You
So-
mean with the other lawsuits that are
Correct.
pending? Okay.
Correct. And again, I can't speak for them as to what
Right.
they ultimately decide. If I was to speculate, and it is a speculation, I would be surprised if that wasn't a consideration of some of the other ones that are going to be coming. But from our perspective, in the appellate division, with the legal arguments that the township is making consistent with what John Drill argued, it's really not, that particular aspect of the fight, I don't think is Greenwich's.
So
And neither did John. I'm saying John.
Right,
John.
so it is a decision that we made based on the avenue. I'm just trying to figure out how to explain it. I'm sure you and John have thought it through, but so it has something to do with the decision of the avenue we're pursuing versus, because I had somebody tell me, well, we can't file for an injunction. It's not our place to do so. I didn't understand legality-wise what that meant.
I think in a practical way, our issue is going to be decided long before the plant is actually built.
Yeah, but they said they're going to start in 2 weeks or something
Okay?
like
Well, they're not going to finish it in 2 weeks.
that. True, very true.
Our,
right.
our decision will come out before that plant is built.
So the timing of, you said the timing would be 40 days plus another 45, something like
No,
that?
I talked about for briefing schedule.
For
Then
briefing,
there's an
right.
opportunity for oral argument. It depends upon the judge's panel. The way that it works is there are different appellate judge teams. They're either in 2 or 3. It's generally 3, but sometimes there could be 2 judges who hear a case, and it's up to it's up to their schedule and their docket. So to really comment on when our attorneys would be on their feet before a panel, they could not comment on that.
Okay.
But I think the other thing that was made known last night when we were talking at the planning board is that, only so many people keep taking out lawsuits. They're all going to be bunched together.
Right.
Ours is going to a totally different legal form and going in a totally different direction. The other ones are eventually all going to be put together so that it's going to become one lawsuit. So the more people who sue, it doesn't make any difference. It's going to be one lawsuit. In the end, they're going to be all put together.
But can Joe Schmo go hire a lawyer and file for an
Yep.
injunction?
Yes.
So that's
Yep.
not a,
Absolutely.
there's no issue,
Absolutely.
there's no, you don't have to have a lawsuit pending to do that.
Well, you
Nope.
can start your own, yes,
You can
you can
start
do
your
it.
own.
As
But it
long as you
can
have
just be for
standing.
the injunction. It doesn't have to be I'm suing for anything else. I'm just filing
Sure.
for an injunction.
Sure.
Thank you, I just didn't
Yep.
understand that.
Yep.
Brad Perone, 110 Canal Crossing. Had a couple questions, public service. For Lorraine, the cap thing you talked about today, is there an expiration on when you can use that? Does it expire after so many years?
You can keep a bank for the 2 years after the date of the introduction. So what we don't use this year from 2010 will expire.
Okay, so it's a 2 years. Okay. Clarification on Dumont. Is there going to be a weight restriction on that road or not?
We have to talk about it in executive session.
Oh, it hasn't been decided yet.
But they've
Agreed not
Not
to,
to.
that's a condition that was placed on the application, so that's part and parcel. They cannot use it. That's part of the ordinance.
Yeah, 'cause I hear things about weight limits, and I know how that would impact Home Depot and ShopRite and the other businesses
Local
there.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't even come into
No,
Greenwich.
correct.
Well, how would we enforce them not using Dumont?
Police.
But if there's no weight restriction on it, how do you enforce it?
If they're on the road, they're in violation.
They've already agreed.
They've already agreed to it. Period. It really is that simple.
It's
They're not
gonna-
allowed on the road.
And it's written in the...
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, it's in writing. And it was read again as what they voted on, as part of the the
The
engineer,
33, yeah.
not the planner, the engineer read that.
33 things. Yeah.
Right, they were, yeah, was it 33?
33 or 30, I can't remember, 33 conditions that they were going to
Yeah,
have
there
to
was
meet.
quite
It
a
was
few.
part of that
Right.
read.
Yeah, I
Yep.
remember that.
But they can go on the road if they're going to a job though, right?
A
Only
local
if they're
job,
going to
correct,
a
that's what I
local
see,
job.
yes. If they're gonna do your driveway and they need to get on Greenwich Street to get there, yes, they can do that.
If anybody calls them.
On the Morris Canal issue you brought up, Elaine, I live on Canal Crossing, it's behind my house. I received one of those letters. The residents whose properties border the canal, there's a survey. I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
Yes.
You can go and take. But also, just to make you aware, I've only been in that development for about 6 years, but I know there was some sort of
Absolutely.
legal agreement with the initial residents there
Yes, and
related to that, so
we can talk about that offline.
okay, just so you know, I didn't know if you're aware of that or not.
I do know, and I hope, did you know when you bought the house?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
That's why I make sure my neighbor's still there.
Okay.
You're not moving. And then a public service announcement. There's going to be a new Boy Scout troop starting, Troop 61. It's going to extend off of the Cub Scout Pack 61, so it'll be a nice segue into there. Brian Sensi is going to be one of the leaders there, so I'm kind of here speaking on his behalf. So we're doing a lot of fundraisers to get some funds to start the troop. Our first one's going to be on April 14th. It's going to be at the school. It'll be at 9 a.m. to 12. It's going to be a mobile shredding company is going to be coming. So if you have any documents that you need to have confidential shredding, it'll be done on site. $5 donation. You can bring one of those boxes. Like you buy. Not a legal size, but like a box of paper, like a ream of paper you get from Staples, like that kind of size box. Or if you want to bring it in paper bags, that's fine too. No financial documents are allowed from the township to be shredded. But anyone else can bring their stuff. Actually, I did ask that, and I think we will be able to give the tonnage to you.
All right, so
So-
you're charging money for
It's a donation to the
the
Scouts.
scouts to be able to utilize this, but the vendor needs to provide you with the tonnage
Yes,
report.
I already talked to them about that.
Okay, and that needs to be submitted to the town.
Yep. Cool. And you'll also get a, you're gonna have copies of like a certificate of destruction if you need it for any kind of legal purposes. So come down, support the Scouts, get your stuff shredded.
So this is the elementary school?
It'll be at the elementary school, it'll be the 14th, right before, tax day.
Yeah, we saw, it came through in the electronic backpack for all the
Yep.
kids, just so you know. Eric.
Yeah, it did. We put out here. I'm just trying to
Yeah, that's great.
get the word, so, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Good luck, Brian.
I'm Tom Bolger, 506 Story Place. I'm a resident, I'm also planning board chair for those people who do not know. The asphalt plant is a really big deal. We take it as a big deal, and we took action on it. Someone made a comment before regarding the plant that we have in town. I'm not an expert on volumes, but when I did look at their website, they did not even list asphalt as one of their products. Typically, they have pavers, rock, sand, dirt, mulch.
I noticed that too.
And so, if they do it, I would think that it's low volume. As I understand the low pad application, that's a 24/7 operation.
It is.
Night and day doesn't cut it. It's two separate things. One is an incidental use that they do if somebody comes in and they'll do asphalt. Mr. Finelli talked about the asphalt. If you want asphalt in Warren County, you go up to Oxford. That's where people typically go. So it's two separate things. On the other note, I did want to talk about perception and the asphalt litigation being a big deal. Many people may wonder why I was not at the LOPAT meetings, especially because they know that I've been very vocal on several topics at both the Greenwich Township Committee and the Greenwich Township Board of Education. I have gone to both of them complaining quite loudly on several topics, especially because I'm part of the planning board. They want to know how come I wasn't there. It is especially because I'm the Greenwich Township chair that I sought legal counsel. As a township official, we are held to a higher standard. In discussing this with counsel, I was advised not to attend And because I don't want to jeopardize the litigation, I did not attend, although I wanted to. Perception is everything. This is a highly publicized meeting. There was a highly publicized meeting between the LoPAT mayor and an Alfred councilman, as documented in the Express Times back in last summer. This meeting was held, according to the newspaper, while the asphalt plant was being debated in Alpha. And it received a lot of publicity and a lot of comments in the newspapers. So officials are held to a higher standard. And whenever such meetings are to be held in private or public, legal counsel should be sought ahead of time. Any perception that might adversely impact all the good things that the entire township committee voted on to act upon, like hiring a lawyer and sending representation to the meeting, is being undermined by the perception of any impropriety. It doesn't matter how innocent it was, it doesn't matter how private it was. It matters about the perception of what was happening and the timing of said meeting. That's why it's a big deal.
Any other comment?
Kevin Bain, 416 Daniel Drive. This is regards to the, I guess, the petty cash fund we were talking about before. And I was just wondering, have we considered, you know, maybe the person who would be in charge of petty cash, as opposed to giving them cash to hold on to, giving them check writing abilities so that maybe they can only, let's say, write a check up to a certain amount of money? Because it's so much easier to keep track of checks and everything else. I mean, petty cash funds are really, I mean, from in the business world, are a thing of the past. I mean, nobody really keeps cash lying around anymore. And I think from a control perspective, it makes more sense to, you know, if somebody's writing, first of all, they only have limitations on how much they can actually write a check for. So you have control there. And if they write to somebody they're not supposed to, well, then obviously it's easily tracked. Whereas petty cash, I mean, it can disappear very easily. So I just wanted to bring it up as an alternative to a petty cash fund more. If there's, and I don't know in terms of, I know like just to have to go to the state to have to set up a petty cash fund is mind-boggling, to say the least. I mean, I'm not sure what you have to do to do something in terms of having some check writing abilities. I mean, maybe you have to go to the governor on or not.
Thanks.
But I just wanted to bring it up as another alternative.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other public comment?
Looked like I just got done playing a doubleheader, but I didn't.
We feel like we got
Jim Mangiola, 1614 Adams Drive. After all the important topics that were discussed here, I'm going to discuss a little bit of youth baseball, if we can. I've been a resident at Greenwich about 10 years, played Little League, high school, college baseball, and had an opportunity to come into Greenwich, where my son Dean has had the great pleasure of being with Greenwich Rec and Little League and baseball and basketball and Pohat hockey and football, and has really taken advantage of everything that Greenwich had to offer. That being said, playing baseball, Little League, high school, college, afforded me an opportunity to begin to coach. So I coached all of these different sports here in Greenwich. And one of the ones that I gravitated to was, take a guess, baseball. So I've been pretty vocal with regards to baseball and the baseball program through the years. And we've seen a lot of changes happen. Unfortunately, those changes didn't actually happen here in Greenwich. They've happened all around us. We see that individuals have an opportunity to play rec baseball, and there are individuals that want to play a higher competitive level of baseball. Now, you would think a township like Greenwich would really look to advance a program. And when I say advance a program, take a look at what's happening around the country, where kids and parents are moving from rec and moving to different areas because it's really not necessarily fair for the kid that has a lot of fun playing ball, but he's not very skilled. and to put him up against an individual that's a fireballer. It turns that youngster off of the sport. So by creating different levels of teams, that might afford some equality amongst the teams. Now, I'm going to speak about something else for 1 second because it ties in. When I moved here, I didn't know Dan Perez and Elaine and Joe and Tom and Tanya, but I've gotten to know them. Mike Finelli, who helped me with the main lateral sewer collapse in front of my house, thank goodness.
That's what I'm here for.
Nice job, nice job, Mike. But I say that because I'm one of those individuals that thought I might go back into the weeds. I might just coach. I might not be a vocal individual or attend a meeting like this. But it didn't turn out quite that way. And it didn't turn out that way because my kid, as we all are motivated by oftentimes our own kid, didn't want to play basketball. 3-on-3 basketball, non-competitive basketball. Didn't want to play. Didn't want to play. Didn't want to play until when? Found out all his friends were playing. Dad, I want to sign up. So I went down, want my kid to sign up. I'm sorry, I missed the deadline. I'm sorry, you can't play basketball. You missed the deadline. I got my kid with me. Sorry, Dino. These guys are telling you you can't play basketball. You can imagine how angry I was. How embarrassed I was that a group of adults with common sense couldn't make a decision to get a little kid to play non-competitive basketball. And one of the answers I was given was, we already bought the shirts. Does that make any sense to anybody? We already bought the shirts. What does that mean? So I said, you know what, I gotta do something about this. So I got on the rec board. I couldn't do anything about it. Still didn't change. It's still happening today. In fact, it happened today. Happened today. Now, I've had the pleasure of watching these films of the town council meeting. And thank you. Got me off my rear end, got me down here instead of just watching. Because I want to make a difference. But I don't know that we're going to make a difference because there's still that same mindset that takes place. I watched a woman come in talking about swimming, and her kid couldn't swim. A non-team sport where an individual goes in and gets in a pool and swims, and this was in January, and swimming doesn't start until March. Doesn't make any sense to me. So I thought, you know what? Forget the rec, because they're not listening. I went to the coach, who I think is a very level-headed individual, and the answer I got back was, well, the deadline's a deadline. Come on, this is common sense, people. These are kids. I run now a highly competitive youth baseball team. Done it for 5 years. A situation came up where I made a commitment to 3 individuals from Greenwich to play baseball in a league. Unfortunately, that opportunity, and I run a number of different competitive teams, for one team that I made that commitment to these individuals, didn't pan through. So we have 3 people who did not sign up for rec baseball this year because they thought that they were going to have an opportunity to play with Mr. Mangiola. That fell through. You can imagine how disappointed I am and devastated. These are boys that have been with me. They're just like your kids, 13 years old. And in fact, one of them I'm going to talk about is in 4th grade. 4th grade little girl that wants to play softball. Parents are going through a divorce. Mom thought dad signed them up. Dad thought mom signed them up. Dad's pointing the finger at mom. Mom's pointing the finger at dad. Somehow Mangiola found himself in the middle of this. I don't know how. But guess what Greenwich Township told him? You missed what? The deadline. Just today, told again, you missed the deadline. So what did I do? I called John Kozar from Lopat, with the help of someone on the town council, to get that number, to simply ask, hey, here's the situation. I'm wondering if, and that's about as far as I got in my sentence, where they said, sign them up. We'll take them. Sign them up. So you lost 3 more youths today, 2 baseball, 1 softball, and I got a venture, once they go over to Lopat, they ain't coming back. For years I've been yelling and screaming, let's get boys that want a higher level of competition in baseball, give them that opportunity. Haven't been able to do that. So what happened was I had to go independent, aside from rec, and took 12 kids. Well, I did it, and guess what else happened? Now we got 5 teams in Greenwich that are independent from the rec association. Do the numbers on that. 50 kids? 60 kids? How many is that? That's a shame. It's unacceptable. At some time, some point, someone has to say, what are we doing? What are we doing here? We're losing all the kids. Alpha's taking them. They're welcome. Lopat's welcoming them in. We're losing them. That having been said, I want to acknowledge Dan Perez. Dan, while everybody else fought us, these are our fields, you can't use the field, so they didn't want us to use the Greenwich fields, Stecker and Beatty's, because we weren't part of rec. We were the outsiders. Dan was kind enough to support us. He afforded us some balls, gave us the opportunity to play on the fields, but they weren't the same opportunities afforded to those from the rec. They were, after everything is done and every other team has had their say and girls softball has had their say, it's time then for you to be able to have access to the fields. Dan came up and publicly watched the games. But it was a challenge because we couldn't get the publicity that we needed. And you know what? We went to 2. Could you imagine 2? Anybody in this room know that one of the Greenwich teams went to 2 state championship titles? Not a lot of people, because it wouldn't be publicized, because we weren't rec. We have kids in Greenwich that are phenomenal basketball players. Maybe they're 8 inches taller than the next rec kid. Maybe their skills in ball handling and movement are better than the level that they're at. And they've asked, can they be afforded an opportunity to move up to the next level? No, they can't. So where do they go? They go over to Alpha, who welcomes them with open arms. And all of our athletes, and I don't mean to say the kids that are left in rec are not athletes, but our kids that have a desire to play competition at a higher level, more often, more frequently, in many sports, aren't given that opportunity through Greenwich Rec. That having been said, every year I go and I think I do the right thing and approach the rec. Say again, Jim Mangiola, this is a select team. We'd like the opportunity to use the fields, to have insurance, to have some balls, baseballs. That didn't sound quite right as I heard it reverberating in the room. And while Dan has offered that opportunity throughout the years, he kind of did it as, I won't say on the slide because that doesn't sound right, as a gesture of goodwill, even though the bigger picture wasn't seen. Or the individuals on rec wouldn't listen to what that bigger picture can be. And all of the towns, not Pohat, Lopat that are around here, but the other towns, the Bridgewaters, the Mount Olives, they all have these programs that afford different levels. But it hasn't happened here. So again, for the 5 years I've approached the rec, and for the 5 years it's been a challenge. I'd like to thank Angie this year, as it seems, and the town council, as it seems that the typical battle that has been afforded me year after year has been lessened. And I say that because already I've received numerous communications from the rec and the representation on the rec that says, you'll be afforded that opportunity. You and the other 5 teams will be afforded an opportunity to have the same access to the fields as the kids within Greenwich Rec Association. Additionally, it's been communicated through Angie and the rec that they'll look at a formal process and have taken that formal process and put together appropriate documentation in order for these teams to achieve insurance for the teams. And I'd like to thank them for that. Whatever the decision of the town council is, thank you for considering it, and thank you to the rec for doing all of the legwork to make that happen. At the end of the day, really, the insurance, I won't say isn't important. It is. Every dollar is important. These kids play an average of 40 to 60 games of baseball a year. So when you do the math on the leagues they play in, Jack cussed at $3,000 a league because there's nothing here to play. And then you do Serbo at another couple $1,000, plus the cost of buying uniforms, plus 2 balls minimum for 60 games. You could see that the outlaying of cash from those that want to do this is well into the $1,500 per individual mark. So if it's insurance that the township was affording us, we'll gladly take it, believe me. If you have any extra balls, we'll take them too. I like the idea of that.
Baseballs.
Baseballs. Baseballs. We also understand that we're really not bringing anything to the table in terms of financial obligation. We don't pay a fee. We don't do the fundraising. We're independent. But I'll say that's not our issue. That's the rec issue. We've been asking to be part of rec and enveloped within rec for 5 years. And we'd gladly do the same types of fundraising that is happening at the rec level. So again, Angie, I want to thank you and your rec association for all the hard work that you've done thus far this year. I know the town council will have a decision on some of the things with regards to rec sports. And I would encourage you, you've got asphalt plants and you've got budgets that need to get reconciled and you've got money that has yet to be found, and baseball's probably down here, and youth sports may be down here too. But at some point, I think it's important that the representation from the Township Committee, who's on the liaison to the rec, pushes the discussion along a little bit further. Because for every year that there's no decision or no change that happens, you're losing more and more kids in youth sports. Okay? Thank you.
Jim, thank you. And just so you know, I think I speak for the committee in acknowledging the hard work that the rec committee has been doing on making some strides and necessary changes and providing structure where it had not been there in the past. And I think in those efforts, and I will speak for myself, I have shared some of the same concerns about what can be too strict approach in denying children access to sports. Your swimming example, I think, is a good one, and I actually shared the exact same analogy. It's an individual sport. It doesn't affect teams. It's no uniforms. It's a kid jumping in a pool and swimming in a lane. So in that respect, personally, I found no rational basis for denying that child, where in other instances that may not be the case. I can't speak to all decisions, but on that one I share with you. And you have my pledge to make sure that this township committee will be working closely with rec. I think one of the starting points, we did it tonight as a township committee to prepare a draft of a mission, vision, and values. And I have spoken with Tom, and the rec committee will be charged with preparing their own mission, vision, and values and reporting back to the township committee next month. And with a focus, it's our expectation that the focus be children-centric in terms of making sure that we don't, in providing the necessary structure, that we don't get lost in what the ultimate objective is. So I appreciate your remarks. Another thing I would like to say, and not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to, there are openings on the rec, and I would be prepared to appoint you to the rec committee tonight if you would be interested in assisting in that, and would welcome your input and perspective. And there is an opening, and it is for the mayor to provide the appointment, and I'd be willing to do that if that's something you would consider.
If there's a way to turn the mic off and I could comment directly to you.
Not to put pressure, but it's the passion and the focus in a different perspective, I think, would serve the committee well in providing your energy to it, and I understand it is a commitment. It is a time commitment, and to the extent that that's something that you're not able to give, or for whatever reason, I understand. But the offer is there. You came tonight with passion and clearly a concern, and I could not think of really a better person to appoint. And it's something to consider. I'd be happy to appoint you.
Mayor Torriello, thank you. Those words mean an awful lot to me. As you probably know, I did spend several years on the rec committee, and through the medical emergency at my home, you talk about it's a time commitment, it's a focus, the youth need to be focused on. I'm still unable at this time to dedicate the amount of time that would be necessary to do that role properly and to give that role a proper focus for the youth of Greenwich. However, should things change, it's something that I know I will have a strong desire to get back into. There's one other issue that I'd like to bring up, and it's nothing that's happening now, but it's possibly something that can happen in the future. And I mentioned earlier the 3 individuals that just left, in 2 for baseball and 1 in softball. I believe that there's a rule is not the right word, where if an individual leaves Greenwich Township and plays for another town, that there's a penalty that is either real or perceived, or a letter that is given to individuals that say, be prepared, because should your child leave Greenwich Township and play for another township, they will be penalized by not being afforded an opportunity to play any other sports in Greenwich Township for a year.
And you're 100% right, Jim. But there's a caveat to that. That applies, and there have been some rule changes with rec, so.
We haven't enforced that rule, and we're discussing whether that should even be in place anymore.
Okay, because the rule that was there was when someone left, when they had an opportunity to play here. In this case here, where you have individuals that they don't have an opportunity to play here, and they go somewhere else, that rule is not in effect.
Good. Okay. That makes me feel much better, and I'll let those parents know, those individuals, because that was a very big concern of theirs. And I said, I believe that at least the town council, from those that I know and have worked with and known for years, would not allow that to happen. So thank you for affording me that opportunity to do just that and all of the other things that I did. Keep up the good work. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment, Steve. I am the rec liaison. I've only been so for a few months. What I can say from being a resident of this township for 15 years, the rec has come light years. When I say light years, I mean I came from New York City. That's when rec was born. I mean you played on the pavement, you tackled in baseball, and it was very organized. And I came out here and I moved to the sticks, and it seemed 15 years ago very organized. What I can tell you from the small time that I've been on the committee and being the liaison, that entire team is very hardworking. They've come light years from what I've seen that program to be.
I agree.
Is there work to be done? Yes. Is it always black and white? No. There's gray areas. Is there passion from every individual on that board? Absolutely. And we are making changes, as you can see right away. Hit the ground running. We're going to make some changes. A lot of them have been open to the changes. We're trying to make financial changes for them. We're trying to give them some autonomy, things like that. So, in essence, there's some positive energy moving in a direction. Whether it's not spiking as we'd like to see our township finances, it's moving that way. To you personally, and for everybody in this room, Jim Mangiola represents everything that is good with regards to the children of this township. My son, TJ, is not the best athlete in the world. He's not the worst athlete in the world. He has a passion for baseball, just like his dad. You know, I played high school and college ball, and my son doesn't. He's never going to be that guy, you know, but he has a passion for baseball. And you are the one individual that took him on the team, and instead of being put out in right field like he always was, you brought him in and you gave him an opportunity to pitch, and he pitched a great game that day, and it was the best experience he ever had. And the following year, when he found out you weren't coaching rec, he quit. And he said, I don't think I can play for the next coach. I'm waiting for Mr. Mangiola's team. So I just wanted to give you that feedback. I know I've never told that to you, but you've had a resounding effect on my son, and I think you've had that on many, many children in this town, and please continue to do so.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Thank you. I want to end with, I'm responsible for TJ leaving baseball. Oh my God.
He's having great soccer and basketball now, but yeah, you know, he made his life there.
Okay, thank goodness.
Yeah.
I'll simply end with, you know, I've seen a lot of changes in the township. It is ironic, and sitting on the rec board, I watched the then liaison to rec from the township committee come into the rec meetings and just bash us over the head about our lack of fiscal responsibility within the rec. So it is a bit ironic, after watching what's happening here, the lack of fiscal responsibility from a township committee, previous, one of which was on that committee, to come in and say, how dare you guys not do this, this, and this. And there's no joy when I say this. It's just ironic to see that that house that was pointing fingers didn't have their fiscal house in order. And I commend you in identifying that and wish you luck in fixing this.
Thank you.
Good luck.
I have just one comment there. Believe it or not, this is a repeat of what happened to me, and part of the reason why I ran for elected official.
Sorry to hear that.
In my capacity, my son was playing baseball, and I don't know if you know the Zualaguas, the Sharons, and the Glennons. They wound up having the same exact situation that you have, and they took and made their own team. And my son was on their team. And my son absolutely was a good athlete and played with many people in this town, and those kids became really close friends, and many of them are still here. One of the things, and I think you will know, in the month that I was the rec liaison, was the opportunity that I gave to the rec to look at the kids who come back, who were a part of rec, who still live here because they cannot afford to go out on their own and have their own places.
A lot of them.
And there are a lot of adults that have returned from college and still live here. And my son absolutely loved coaching 4-on-4 and 3-on-3. Okay, so 3-on-3. I knew when I was pushing him for something, but there had to be 4 coaches. So Christina Gale and Devaine's son and his girlfriend, they all came and they did that. We have to look at how to embrace those people to help some of the coaches that may need the additional help. And some of these kids were great athletes when they were in Greenwich, and they want to give back. And the one thing that touched my heart the most was my son was coaching one day, and his very first, his name is Smith. Oh, Coach Smith. He was his very first baseball coach. Richard Smith. He saw him there with his great-grandchildren, and his great-grandchildren were playing 3-on-3. And so he got to coach his great-grandchildren, and he went up to him, and he remembered him. So those kinds of things, there are kids out there that can help us too. So I'd like to, commend you for the time, the effort, and all the things that you're doing, and I believe in what you're talking about because I experienced it. So
now I'm going to take, Elaine, one thing that you said, and I'm going to build it because you're not telling the whole story of that. The reality of this is that as Elaine was the liaison to our rec, our 3-on-3 program was about to go under. We weren't going to have it. It was a week before the program, and we had no coaches. And it was Elaine who came up with the brainchild. It was Elaine who reached out to those kids who wanted to do it. It was Elaine who organized all of that and saved the entire 3-on-3 program. But was that embraced and built upon and repeated year after year? It wasn't. So again, we need to think bigger. We need to think the future. It can no longer be, much like the town council is doing now, same old business run the same way. And that has to include youth sports. Times are a-changing, and we need to change with the times. Okay, thanks.
Any other public comment? Seeing no hands, is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll make that motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to go into executive session?
I'll make the motion.
Second. Roll call?
Executive session for the purpose of...
Yeah, it's executive session for the purposes of contract negotiations, property acquisition, litigation pending and potential and personal matters.
Anticipated time is probably half hour.
Roll call, Perez?
Yes.
Siegel? Yes. Miliani?
I don't know. Yes.
Valari?
Yes.
Toriano?
Yes.